This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Michael Bender of the Wall Street Journal wrote in his 2021 book about how in 2018, Trump told his then chief of staff, retired four-star General John Kelly, as Kelly was explaining to Trump who the allies and enemies were in both world wars, quote, "Well, Hitler did a lot of good things," praising the Fuhrer for his economic policies. Now, Kelly pushed back as Trump reportedly persisted speaking positively about Hitler. Trump later denied making those comments. But in 2022, Susan Glasser and Peter Baker wrote in their book, The Divider, about how Trump, frustrated by his military leadership, exclaimed to Kelly as well, "You effing generals, why can't you be more like the German generals?" "Which generals?" Kelly asked. "The German generals in World War II," Trump responded. "You do know that they tried to kill Hitler 3 times and almost pulled it off," Kelly said. But Trump insisted, no, they were totally loyal to him. That model of the Third Reich, bastardized as it was how Trump wanted the American military modeled, the book claims. But this isn't new as well. Let's rewind all the way back to 1990 when Vanity Fair reported that Trump's former wife, the late Ivana Trump, had told her lawyer that Donald Trump occasionally read from a book of Hitler's collected speeches, My New Order, which he supposedly kept in a cabinet by his bed. And a friend of Trump told the magazine on the record that he had given Trump the book, saying he thought Trump would find it interesting. Now, Trump denied this, saying, quote, "If I had these speeches, and I'm not saying that I do, I would never read them." More recently, Trump has unapologetically entertained anti-Semites. Trump had Nick Fuentes and Kanye West as dinner guests just last year at Mar-a-Lago. Fuentes, well known as a white nationalist and a Holocaust denier. Trump's team saying that West invited him without their knowledge. Still, Kanye West just the month before threatened to go, quote, DEFCON 3 on, all caps, Jewish people. West had, according to one of his former business executives, praised Hitler and what the Nazi Party achieved for the German people. So we're seeing a pattern, and the pattern here very clear.
I'm genuinely surprised how people close to Trump haven't talked about the odor. It's truly something to behold. Wear a mask if you can. Then Donald Trump responded to that, and he had his team go after you and say, no, Kinzinger is the one who's smelly. And as Hillary Clinton said, if you could be baited by a tweet, how are you supposed to be expected to handle Vladimir Putin and other authoritarians? And Donald Trump clearly got baited by your tweet and your post. But let's just start with your post. The odor, the stench, the stink. How bad is it? What do you know about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not good. I mean, think about the best way to describe it. I've tried to take armpits, ketchup, like a butt, and kind of put it in a blender, and makeup, and put that all in a blender. And and you bottle that as a cologne. That's kind of that. But it's amazing. I've been amazed that, everybody's just kind of learning about this now.
Plaintiffs in the Colorado Trump ballot ban case are requesting the Supreme Court expedite its review of an appeal filed by the state's Republican Party. The Colorado GOP is challenging the state Supreme Court ruling that found former President Donald Trump ineligible for the presidency due to his role in the January 6 riots. In their appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, attorneys for Colorado Republicans argue this decision fundamentally changes the course of American democracy. They also say this ruling will throw courts into similar controversies over accusations of insurrection if it's not overturned.
The case, as you said, has been appealed to the Supreme Court now. And basically, when the Colorado Supreme Court made their decision to disqualify Trump from holding office or being on the ballot, they had put a stay on it until January 4th. The GOP's appeal has now made it so that Trump is going to stay on the primary ballot unless the Supreme Court makes a decision otherwise. And both the petitioners and the GOP have asked the court to act quickly, so we'll find out hopefully soon if the Supreme Court is going to take up this case. If they don't, then the Colorado Supreme Court decision would stay.
The Colorado Republican Party has challenged its appeal to the Supreme Court. What do we expect from here? How fast could the Supreme Court take this up? Does the Supreme Court take this up?
Well, it's a very good question because there is an exit ramp that not only Colorado might prefer, but the court itself might prefer. Colorado's Secretary of State agreed that Trump will stay on the ballot if the Supreme Court does not rule before the January 5th certification date for the state. And so what the position of the state is that unless the court agrees with the Supreme Court of Colorado, which is extremely unlikely, or declines any review, which is also unlikely, that Trump will remain on the ballot because there won't be any action. But what happens after that then becomes rather interesting because Colorado could move and say, look, well, this is now moot because there's no change on the ballot. People are going to be allowed to vote that way. And they could then avoid review by the Supreme Court. I think most of us believe that the Supreme Court is going to reverse the Colorado Supreme Court. So they may actually prefer to moot this out by having the court run out the clock. It's a very short period of time that the Supreme Court has to deal with this.
Vladimir Putin, I'm going to tell you, President Xi of China, they're licking their chops at the idea of another Donald Trump term.
What an idiot.